decision to rebuild relations with Cuba. I'm now joined by Philip Brenner in Havana. He is a professor of international relations at American University. Good spot to be tonight, I would think, watching this history unfold there in Havana. You're listening to all this. Some members of Congress vowing to erect roadblocks to this thawing. U.S. Senator Marco Rubio indicating when the Republicans take over the majority in the Senate, which is coming up shortly, they can hold up funding, they can string along the confirmation process for any Obama nominee to try and block his Cuba plans. How difficult could it be to actually move forward, do you think?
Oh, not at all. In fact, I just came from the home of the chief U.S. diplomat in Havana, and he's quite confident that these kinds of roadblocks won't stop anything. For one thing, the diplomatic mission that the United States has in Cuba already is the largest in Havana of any country. So we have a diplomatic mission here. It is housed in the old U.S. Embassy. All that they need to do is buy a sign that changes that from calling it an interest section to an embassy and hoist an American flag. I think they can find people to buy that flag. And in terms of moving forward on anything else, it won't cost very much money for the United States to do this. As Michael Voss said, the problem will be ending the embargo. That will take acts of Congress, but that can take place over time. Having normal diplomatic relations is a sea change in relations, along with the ability for Americans to travel, for U.S. companies to invest, to trade with small business people here. The number of changes that were announced yesterday were so enormous that it's like trying to move a ship in another direction. And I think that what really is important now is that the president has set the United States on a new course, not only for Cuba, but for all of Latin America.
Let me ask you about that. You said U.S. companies to invest. I've heard that some tourism companies have already had contingency plans hoping for this day. Number of businesses want to move into Cuba. Undoubtedly, they'll be knocking on the doorsteps up here in Washington and Capitol Hill. And lawmakers tend to listen to the guys in big business. I mean, can you see that unraveling rather quickly, or is it going to take a lot of time? The embargo.
No, well, the embargo has many aspects to it. One of the things that will change very quickly is that if Cuba is taken off the list of state sponsors of terrorism, banking laws will now be facilitated to allow Americans to have credit in Cuba, to use credit cards, to have companies invest, have banks in Cuba. So all of that facilitates an opening for U.S. business. And I don't think that's going to be a very hard thing to do. And those are presidential decisions, essentially, that have been made.
Let me ask you about human rights. A lot of people clamoring about that this really takes away that lever for the United States to really impact human rights in Cuba. What's your thought on that?
Well, the United States has tried to use the lever of the embargo for more than 50 years. It's now 52 years, and it hasn't worked. I think that when a country feels it's under threat, it will do things that will violate human rights. We see the United States has done this in the case of torture when it felt threatened by Al-Qaeda. And to the extent that Cuba now feels that it is not under threat by the United States, it is less likely to impinge on people's human rights. There's going to be more openness. The internet will be much more open. There may even be newspapers that people can read that are worth reading. They'll have access to information that they didn't have before, and there might even be more open voting. So I think that the likely changes in the movement towards human rights is much greater when you're not under threat than when you are under threat.
Philip, you mentioned 52 years. What did that policy, the U.S. policy, what did it achieve during those 52 years?
Well, what it's achieved is isolating the United States from the rest of the world. In the United Nations, the last time there was a vote, there's been a vote every year for the last 22 years against the U.S. embargo. The last time there was a vote was most recently this November. And the vote was 188 to 2 against the United States. The United States and Israel voted to support the embargo, and actually Israel has good trade relations with Cuba. So we, the United States, are isolated. That's what the main thing the embargo has done. It's also made life more difficult for Cubans in a daily life. Fidel Castro, Raul Castro never lost a meal because of the embargo, but average Cubans pay more for food, they pay more for fuel, for everything because of the embargo.
Philip Brenner joining us from Havana. Thanks so much.